Now, normally I would be out there with you guys helping defend Beacon against Grim Invasion, but you see, I just got my copy of Laser Team in the mail, and, well, I gotta set my priorities straight, so, Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, Jake of the OneManBand is back again, and welcome to another edition of RWBY episodic review, breakdown, analysis, whichever you want to call it. We are looking at Volume 3, Episode 10, The Battle of Beacon. Or for Beacon. Battle for Beacon, Battle of Beacon. Doesn't really matter. There's a battle at Beacon, and it's pure pandemonium! That's the one word that really came to my mind when this episode first started out. It was just pure pandemonium. We had people running away from Grim, running in between people. We had Elysium Knights trying to fend them off. And it was just insane. We had shopkeepers, paramedics, random civilians, students just running around like crazy. You see, this is bad because of the pure pandemonium that has happened. Is just going to attract more Grim, and pretty much now that it started, it probably isn't going to stop. The Grim Invasion, that is. So, Blake and Weiss are there in the middle of the fairgrounds, and they're trying to get in contact with RWBY, but they do get in contact with Yang, who is having the same problem. RWBY isn't picking up her scroll. Of course, we know this because RWBY's scroll was destroyed in the previous episode due to Mercury. Now, Yang is heading towards the docks by the school courtyard to help fend off the White Fang and Grim invasion of Beacon itself. Now, when Blake hears about this, she's surprised. She's like, the White Fang is actually here? They actually came? She probably would have believed that due to what happened in the previous volume with them stopping the train, that the White Fang would have broken off any ties to this, and the White Fang wouldn't have any part of something like this. So Blake and Weiss decide that they're going to go back to Beacon to try to help out Yang. Now, something to notice here is that Weiss reacts to everything that's going on with this can't be happening. And then she mentions Penny. Now, to anyone who is watching the broadcast of the finals fight, they know that Penny was a robot and that Penny was eviscerated. Now, Weiss was indeed one of those people. And her just mentioning Penny this way just is like, so she actually cared for Penny. Like, at least as a treasured acquaintance. Maybe not so much as a friend like RWBY did, but at least somebody that she would care for. Which is a big leap from when last time we saw them together, which was back in Volume 2, when they basically just said hi to one another. Technically, RWBY said hi, Weiss was with her, Penny tried to ignore them. But still, it's like a major leap of just how Weiss would feel for someone. Now back at the stadium, we see that the giant Nevermore is starting to break through the stadium shielding. But you see, Pyrrha is still in shock over what happened to Penny. And so, she barely even notices. Jean is trying to snap her out of it, and even goes as far as to climb into the arena, risking his own life to go and get her. You know, because he cares, people. But it's all for naught because right when he gets close to her, the Nevermore does break through and sends them both flying. And they would have been mincemeat if it wasn't for RWBY coming to their aid. Now, when this first stadium part began, we saw RWBY was sitting there in shock over what happened to Penny, a lot like Pyrrha was. But it seems that RWBY was able to snap out of it when Pyrrha wasn't. Now, when I first saw RWBY was in this state, I got really scared because I was thinking, oh great, she can't handle losing a friend, losing a teammate, so this means she isn't going to be able to just be that huntress anymore. But you see, she's able to snap out of it and do the correct thing. She doesn't run away from it. She isn't overcome with anger. All she knows is that she needs to protect everyone else. And that's what she does for Pyrrha. She protects her. Now, another thing to bring up here is that RWBY, since she was weaponless, takes up one of Penny's swords to defend Pyrrha from the Nevermore. And she actually holds it in a sword fighting stance. So does this mean that RWBY has some form of knowledge with swordplay? It would make sense, since she is obsessed with weapons and the like, that she would know how to use other weapons, but we've only ever seen her use Crescent Rose. And when she didn't have Crescent Rose, she was pretty much useless with hand-to-hand combat. So essentially, now that the shield barrier is down, all of the students are able to call upon their rocket-propelled lockers and get their weapons. And we also see that a majority of the students that retrieve their weapons are from the previous teams in the tournament. Now, I thought that if they were going to bring these teams back, this was how they were going to do it. They were going to bring them back in the finale of the volume and to the big battle. So now not only do we have Team RWBY, Team Juniper, Team Sun, we also have like Team Auburn, Team Funky, Team Coffee. You know, we have all those other teams that are now going to be with our main character teams helping to fight off the Grimm. So it's just going to be one giant hodgepodge of just seeing all these people fight. But I'm kind of disappointed that even with this part of the episode, and then later on when it actually shows a bit of their fighting at Beacon, we didn't get to see much of just the initial fighting. It mostly concentrated on the main protagonists. Now, of course, that's to be expected because they're the main characters and they're the ones that truly matter. But I think maybe in the next few episodes, if we saw a little bit more of these lesser characters, these secondary characters fighting Grimm, I think that would just be a cool nod to the people who have fallen in love with them. But now that all the students are armed, Professor Port and Professor Oobleck tell them to get out of the stadium. And they want them to survive. So Port and Oobleck make a great last stand against the new type of Grimm variation that we see, the Griffin Grimm. And oh my gosh, they're so beautiful. But seeing these two huntsmen taking their last stand against the Grimm here is just awesome to see. Now, obviously I don't expect them to die from this. They're too awesome to die from these lesser Grimm. But I think it's just really cool how they're doing the whole last stand thing. And, you know, they're pretty much standing back to back, ready to take on the hordes of Grimm that are coming. Also, another amazing thing to kind of see is that once the students all agree that they're going to be leaving the stadium, it seems that RWBY is the one that truly takes charge of the situation. She is the one who tells them to, you know, okay, yeah, let's go! And, you know, she does it so triumphantly that Velvet actually snaps a picture of her, which I thought was actually pretty cool. But they're still teasing us with that weapon, because we still don't know what it does, and we don't see it in action. Damn you, Rooster Teeth! So with Oobleck and Port making a last stand, and the students falling back, we see that Ironwood is doing his best to help siphon the civilians and non-combatants off of the stadium. Which is something else I want to bring up. Now, we know that there are civilians at the stadium, and they obviously can't fight Grimm, and that's why they're getting out of there. But there are also students there. Students that go to the Huntsman Academies. Like, you can tell because they have the Atlas uniform or the Beacon uniform. So why the hell aren't they calling their weapons and helping the fight? I'm sorry if I'm getting mad about this, but it's like, you're going to school to fight these things. Why aren't you fighting them and doing your job? Of course, there's also the thing where Ironwood tells the students who are going to fight that you can either help defend your school and your kingdom, or you can flee. You know, the choice is yours. So maybe they kind of got the same choice and decided, well, I'm gonna get out of here. But still, it's like, what self-respecting huntsman trainee would run away from a fight like this? Especially when they're needed so much. I'm just saying that, like, these huntsman academies, maybe they should dictate who they take in better. Because it's like, these students, they can obviously, like, get their weapons from rocket-propelled lockers, or hey, why not pick up one of the rifles that one of the robots drops when it dies? You know, why not do that? Pick up a rifle, start blasting some Grim. You know, help protect your fellow man. Yeah, sorry, that's just the big thing about this episode that really got me, because I was just all like, what the heck? But possibly one of the coolest things we get to see is we get to see Ironwood fight. Now, we don't see much of his fighting style, but we do get to see his weapon. His weapon is just a simple hand cannon. And yes, that's what it is. It's pretty much a hand cannon from Destiny. So he uses that to great effect, but another thing that he does is that he physically blocks an attack by a Beowulf with nothing but his right arm. Now, as we know, that is the arm that is always gloved. And we've seen this instance in other places, such as when Mercury was fighting Yatsuhashi, he stopped Yatsuhashi's blade attack with his legs to great effect. Very similar to how Ironwood blocked the Beowulf's attack with just his arm. So this, in my mind, confirms that he has a robotic arm. Jake called it. So good for you if you also agreed with that theory, because this pretty much proves it right here, that he was able to do such a thing. Now with most of the citizens evacuated, Ironwood is going to go and take back his ship from Torchwick. So with a ship full of Elysium Knights, he sets off towards the ship, while the students decide that they're going to take one of the transport ships to Beacon to help fend off the Grim and White Fang. Meanwhile, while all this is happening, Torchwick is having a grand fun time just messing with his new toy of the military airship. You know, pushing random buttons, see what happens. But the important thing that happens here is that he takes a scroll that's infected with the Black Queen virus and plugs it in to the ship's mainframe, thus spreading the virus to whatever's connected to it, meaning the Elysium Knights. So now the Elysium Knights are under the Black Queen virus's control, and they turn on their handlers. So that's kind of another thing that I called. I kind of said that this would probably be a thing, and now it's a thing. So once again, good for you if you guys also called it. We're calling so many things and getting so many things right. This is why we theorize, people! So pretty much now, the Huntsman's army and defensive forces have pretty much been cut in half almost, probably by 75%, now that every Elysium Knight is not only not fighting the Grim, but now fighting them. So now every human soldier and every huntsman has to watch out for these Elysium Knights and the Grim. We see these Elysium Knights, once they're turned by the Black Queen virus, take down Ironwood's airship. So RWBY, being rambunctious as she is, decides that she's gonna go and take back the military airship on her own, using a rocket-propelled locker, and I don't know how she was able to hack it or cause it to do this on such short notice. But anyway, she flies up and is able to get aboard the ship, to which Torchwick tells Neo to go and take care of it. So we may have a really cool fight coming up in the very next episode. But I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Back at Beacon Academy, we see that Team RWBY continues to be split apart. Now that Weiss and Blake are going to separate from each other to help take out big targets. Blake goes after a big Beowulf, while Weiss decides to go after one of the Paladin mech suits. And of course, this leads to Blake seeing that Adam is indeed at Beacon. Now, something very important about this, the way Adam greets Blake, it's disturbing. It isn't one of mutual consideration or awe or surprise. It's almost...
Hello, my darling.
Lustful. Creepy. It sent chills down my spine, to be honest. But more on that in a little bit as well. So the rest of the students are able to make it to Beacon and help fend off the attack. To which Cinder is simply observing the chaos that she has brought upon Beacon Academy. Now, something to make note of, Emerald is standing there actually, and she states that it's almost sad. Now, she says this almost devoid of emotion in her voice. There's almost no emotion there. Now, does this mean maybe she's having second thoughts on what's happening right now? Well, too bad, Emerald! You don't get to have a second chance, second guessing, because you're the one who killed Penny, pretty much. So you don't get a chance to be sorry about what's happening. But this may indeed lead to Emerald maybe defecting from Cinder to join our protagonists now that she is seeing the chaos that is actually happening. Then again, it may just be that she was just observing and just didn't know exactly how to take it all in because it was like, this is so amazing. You know, maybe it could have been something like that. Now, while Emerald and Cinder are merely observing, Mercury is filming the occasion. And Cinder states that he needs to broadcast everything until the very end. So, they are sending live video footage to somewhere or someone. Now, it could be that perhaps they're sending it to the rest of the world so the rest of the world can watch in horror as this kingdom and this academy is torn asunder by the Grimm. Or they could be sending it to Cinder's higher up to show what they are actually doing and have physical proof. But Cinder specifically tells Mercury to film the Elysium Nights. So almost as if she wants to show whomever that this video is being broadcasted to is that the Elysium Knights have turned on their creators and are killing them. So maybe that is a nod to the idea of creating a automaton army is a bad idea. Now, high up in his tower, Ozpin is observing everything that's going on, and he sees that things are not looking good. So he takes up his cane, and it looks as if he's about to go down and bring down his hammer. He wields it, he flips it around like it's a sword, and it looks like he's about to go total ape shit on all the Grimm and turn Elysium Knights. But something stops him. An earthquake rips through the kingdom. And what is it that comes out? What is it that then arrives to wreak more horror into the lives of those who are in the middle of all this calamity? It's a freaking Grimm Dragon! Now let me say right now, I don't think that this Grimm Dragon is our Lord Grimm that we've been theorizing about for a while. But it is definitely a higher echelon Grand Grimm creature. It's been around for a very, very long time. Obviously because it's so huge. It blew off the top of a mountain when it awoke. And that's something else that I want to bring up. The whole idea that it was under a mountain. Now, obviously, this Grimm has been around for a very long time. But I think back in the day, when probably early huntsmen were fighting it, they couldn't kill it. They didn't have weaponry that was strong enough to kill this creature because it was so big, so old, and so powerful. So the only thing that they could do was bury it underneath a mountain to hopefully contain it for all eternity. But of course, with all the pandemonium, the panic, and the negative emotion brought about by the Grimm invasion of Vale and Beacon, it awakens and releases itself from its stone prison. And another reason why I believe that this is such a big, grandiose old Grimm is that it creates other Grimm. This is the first time we've seen, I guess it could be Grimm. It wouldn't be procreation. Pretty much something leaks off of this dragon Grimm. Pretty much black goop leaks off of it, and once it hits the ground, it gives birth to an entirely new Grimm creature. So this could very well be how the Grimm are created. They're created from these elder Grand Grimm, but then of course the question is, where did the elder Grand Grimm come from? It's definitely something to look into later on in another video, because I literally, I could talk for like half an hour probably just on this dragon. But my reviews are longer than the episodes as it already is, so we're just gonna move on for now. And as the episode begins to wrap up, we see that the students are still fighting off the creatures of Grimm. But Ozpin is waiting at the bottom of his tower for Pyrrha. Because he knows, and she knows, that the only way to truly get a hold of this situation is for a maiden to come in and help turn the tide. And, well, since Pyrrha is the candidate for fall maidenship, it's her destiny. She has to. It's the only way to save everyone, pretty much. So she's going to go to Ozpin, to go down to the vault to have Amber's soul transferred into her body. Now, Jean obviously doesn't know this, but he is going to be going, he goes with Pyrrha to see what's going on, leaving Ren and Nora out in the courtyard to keep fighting. But from afar, we see that Cinder sees what's going on. And you see, her opportunity has come. And she's going to be following them down into the vault in the next episode. Okay, now on to some predictions for the next episode. What I think is going to happen. Now, as I said, I don't think that Oobleck and Port are dead. They're just making a heroic last stand, and they're going to probably come in at the very end of the last episode, you know, triumphantly standing over thousands of dead Grimm bodies. I also don't think that Ironwood is dead. Sure, his ship was pretty much blown up from the inside from Elysium Nights, but Ironwood, he's a pretty tough cookie, and I don't think that he would just go out like a pansy like that. Having Ironwood die in that plane crash would be it wouldn't fit his character. His character would be one who would die by somebody of equal strength, like Cinder. Once again, I hope that we get to see at least a little bit more of the secondary characters and the lesser teams. We get to see a little bit more of them fighting the creatures of Grimm, especially Velvet. I want to see what Velvet's weapon does, and I know that you guys too. Also, with Team RWBY, I think that, like the intro sequence suggests, each one of them is going to end up fighting a sort of boss of the volume. Now, obviously, I think Blake is going to be fighting Adam, since they have just met back together. They're probably going to be duking it out, and that's probably going to take up a majority of the next video. I also think Weiss is going to come across one of Cinder's lackeys. I don't believe it's going to be Mercury. I think it's going to be Emerald, much like the intro sequence suggests. Hey, and maybe in this fight, she's going to eventually have to use her summoning glyph. Like, she's going to have to be calm of mind and actually use it in order to break past Emerald's semblance of illusion. I don't know, just something I think would be really cool. Yang, I do think that she is going to be fighting Mercury. They're going to meet back up somehow, and we all know how that's going to go down. There's going to be a lot of rage, a lot of anger, and probably a lot of just explosions happening. It's going to be the Michael Bay portion of the next episode. But you see, RWBY, she's nowhere near her teammate. She's off on a military airship. Now, obviously, she's going to have a fight with Neo, because Neo was the one that was gonna go out to see, oh, what was that noise on the ship? But are they actually gonna show it? I'm not sure if they would actually show her fight with Neo. Now, I hope that they do, and I'm not saying that I don't want it to happen. I'm just saying that maybe they'll just skip over it, like, oh, RWBY bested her, and now she's gonna fight Torchwick, because Torchwick is like the main bad guy. But no, you see, I want to fight RWBY. I want to see Neo fight RWBY, because the only time we've seen Neo actually fight was with Yang, And since Yang is such a powerhouse and is slower, she wasn't able to hit Neo. RWBY is much faster, so I think Neo is going to have more of a challenge with her. So maybe 2 boss fights for RWBY, Neo and Torchwick. And then of course down in the vault, Cinder is going to be following Ozpin, Jean, and Pyrrha down to get at Amber's body. Now I do honestly believe that Jean will try his damnedest to protect Pyrrha from Cinder, but Jean is nowhere near Cinder's level of power. If anything, he's gonna be brushed aside like he is nothing but a fly, which is either gonna lead to either Pyrrha fighting her or Ozpin fighting Cinder. And I really hope we get to see Ozpin fight Cinder. That would be one of the coolest things to happen yet. So hey, this is gonna end this episodic review. Hopefully it was shorter than the other ones I've been making. I'm trying to cut them down a little bit. And plus, this one didn't really have much to break down. It was a lot of fighting and just a lot of cool friggin' shots. So, hopefully in the next one there's a little bit more to actually break down and analyze. But, if you guys think I missed anything, be sure to leave a comment down below. And, because I'll get to it in the feedback video that'll be coming out later out this week. So until then, be sure to like and favorite if you've enjoyed, subscribe of course if you feel inclined to. Check out my RWBY group, Team Theory, where you can post crackpot theories and discuss theories with other crackpot theorists. And you should also check out this other group that I'm now a part of, the RWBY fan group on Google+. Be sure to check that out, like if you don't have Facebook or you just want to have something else other than Facebook, just Google+, just check it out as well. Link in the description. And also, if you wish, you can check out my Patreon page. And big thanks to all my Patreon sponsors, especially Grant Allen Hill and Duncan Ishler. I love you guys. You guys are amazing. You keep me going. And be sure to be a good person, tip your waitresses, keep moving forward, and I'll see you guys next time I'm out there in YouTube land. I got Laser Team to watch and Grim to kill. I hope you do the same.